Okay, good morning.
Morning, sir.
Good morning, Glaser, Ira,
Morning po.
D, Meg. Oh, welcome to our week 17. Yan. Good morning, Ma'am Nila.
Morning, sir and classmates.
Yan. Good morning, Acel. How are you?
Morning, sir.
Okay, I also invited
Morning
our
po.
Friday class, no? I also invited our Friday class to join us for our final review. Yeah. Let's just wait for a few moments to yeah. Tomorrow
Morning.
we'll start within 3 minutes. Yeah, welcome, guys. No? Okay, good morning, Gillian.
Morning po.
Okay, we'll be starting with number 41. No? As I review our previous video, I'm experiencing some echo. No? Ma-echo pala yung recordings natin. I don't know if you have noticed that. May mga echo. But anyway, still audible. So guys, sige. Nga pala, naka-off cam ako. Nangyari sa akin. Okay. Good morning, Ma'am Hazel.
Good morning, sir.
Okay, good morning, Jerem.
Morning, sir.
Sige, let's open a word of prayer. We thank you, Lord, for this final session that we will have. We intend to review for final examination. I pray, Lord, for your guidance and mercy to all our students, both for our Friday class, undergraduate, and our CTP class. May they end this semester with flying colors for the purpose of glorifying your name, and also for these experiences to be contributing to their success in the future as far as becoming professionals, teaching professionals, ministers uh, for the Christian education of our respective churches and schools, that that each one of them would participate. So help us, Lord, by your grace and mercy, that they may accomplish their goals through this LD Woosley, Bethany College, the educational ministry of Bethany Baptist Church. Continually guide them, Lord, that this will contribute to their lifelong learning, and that they may apply this also sooner or later on their respective classrooms, Lord, that they may empower their students, continually motivate them, replicate themselves among these students, Lord, that eventually they will also, out of these students, will also raise new generations of learners that eventually will follow the footsteps of our soon-to-be teachers. So help us, Lord, by your grace, that we may see the pattern of Apostle Paul passing to Timothy, passing to faithful men that would teach others also. These 4 generations of teaching model that we may continue to reflect your glory, your mercy to us, O Lord. That we are your humble servant. You are the one that established us towards this ministry. So we thank you, Lord, and we are praying that this last session will be meaningful to us as well. This is our prayer in Christ's name. Amen. Okay, thank you so much, guys.
Amen.
Good morning to all of you. So we are
Good
now
morning, sir.
starting our lecture, no, our review session. I also invited our Friday class. That's why I shared the link on our chat group. Ayan, so I invited them. So because the Friday class may not have the luxury of time compared to our Saturday class. Since the Saturday class is a full class, meaning we are actually doing a synchronous for 3 hours. But the Friday class is ano bang tawag doon? Somewhere in between full class and a tutorial class. Ganun yung category ng class. So normally we only have synchronous for 2 hours. Or at least 2.5 hours. Ganun. So yun, medyo, that's why I invited them to also to visit our class today. Okay? Ayan, special class pala yung category. Yan. Oo, kasi kasama kayo din, iniwan niyo yung 3 eh. Ayan, si Ira, si Gillian, saka si Aisel. Actually, they're part of that special class. But of course, because of the conflict of schedule, of course, I'm counting you on those class. Unfortunately, it's still a special class. Ayan, iniwan niyo yung 3, nagtatampo sa inyo. Ayan, ngayon pa si Gillian, saka si Aisel. But anyway, we accommodate your schedule. Okay, let's move on. No? So, we're starting with number 41. Palakihin ko lang ng konti itong ano. So, reading between the lines. No? So, we have grade 6, 12-year-old boy comes dysfunctional family, had been abused, neglected, has been to orphanages at 3 different elementary schools. No? Palipat-lipat siya. Yan. And he can decode. And at the second grade, he can comprehend orally materials at 4th and 5th level. The most probable cause of his students' reading problem is, so what would be the obvious answer here?
B, sir.
Okay,
Emotional.
so emotional factors, yes. Okay, let's analyze items. Immaturity, I have not seen that on the text. Also, neurological factors, hindi naman. Poor teaching, yan, that's the worst assumption that we could have. So it's not found in the text. It's all about the grade 6 boy. Nothing to do with the poor teaching. So all of these are X, and the most appropriate and the right answer is emotional factors. So in fact, we could reflect on this on our classroom. Sometimes there are reading problems or perhaps comprehension problems. No, as teachers, siguro it's our responsibility also to look into their family. How are you at home? Or perhaps there are issues at home, pero hindi naman tayo chismosa, no? But we would like to know for the purpose of encouraging the student, at least to know how to motivate the student properly, no? So home conflicts at home are really affecting the learner itself, no, in terms of emotional, no, yung emotional effect. No, mahalaga yon. So siguro as a matter of encouragement, maybe you could also know how their work, how they are, lalo na sa mga LM grades, no, elementary grades, no, you could yan, tingnan mo, kumusta ka sa bahay? Ayan ba? Ganun, mga simpleng tanong lang. At sometimes, the students could open up. No? Now, there are occasions like that. No? There are students that are really need some advices, motivation from us. In fact, sa totoo lang, ang mga bata, mas mataas ang tingin sa ating mga guro, no, kumpara sa mga nila. In some point in time, in some point in time. They could listen to the teacher. Oh, the teacher has a different, iba yung sinabi ni teacher kaysa yung sinabi. Mga ganun, may mga, pag magkaiba, si teacher ang masusunod. So, they have a high regard to us and opportunity rin yan for us to know them at home. No? How's your home? How's your siblings? No? Natuturuan ka ba sa bahay? Mga follow-up, no? Etc. I know some of you, the pre-LM and the LM teachers here knows that. So, yun nga lang, pagdating sa college, hindi na ganyan ang issue. More on, self-directed learning na, no? So, nagiging self-paced na yung learning, no? Sometimes we don't really, our emotions, though it's important, no, ay hindi na siya masyadong, hindi ko alam kung may ganun pa rin professor, no, yung mahalaga sa kanya emotions, no, even in the tertiary level, no. So yun. So but it's a minimized compared to the LM, yan, daycare, no. Yes, ma'am. So yan. So mahalaga yan na maging sensitive tayo kahit sa mga high school, no, you'll be high school teachers, no? Lalo na yung mga grade 7, no? Grade 7, yung mga ano pa lang yan. Transition from LM to high school. So, yan, mga importanteng emotional factors. Sometimes, mas maimportante pa yan sa cognitive factors. Sometimes, yung emotions. Kapag hindi emotionally stable yung bata, so it will affect his learning. Lalo na ito, ayan, yung readings niya. Problem in readings. Alright? So, okay, let's move on. So those are just my insight. The role of play in the preschool and early childhood years is that it blank. No? So ano kaya yung appropriate answer this?
Let's see, sir.
Alright, so we will look at this. Ano ba yung need ng preschool? Competitive ba agad? Competitive spirit? So I don't think it's appropriate. It's letter B separates reality to fantasy. Parang hindi rin. I don't think that's necessary. Letter C develops upper-lower limbs. Yung role play itself, hindi naman. It's more on supposedly exercise, something like that. But role playing is not for physical activity. It's not intended really for physical activity per se only. No, but it's secondary. Sometimes you would like the pupils to exercise. No, you'll be doing some role playing like jogging or something like that. But that's secondary. Secondary, hindi siya yung primary. So I think letter D is the right answer. Increases imagination due expanding knowledge and emotional range. Of course, kung may role playing na may emotional range doon, no? Role playing, halimbawa, malungkot, masaya. Ano ba yung role na i-act mo? Role playing, no? And then also, of course, experiential knowledge is important. Expanding knowledge through role playing. So letter D is the right answer. Okay. Okay, next. Is my screen okay? Do I need to expand?
Okay lang siya, sir.
Okay lang po, sir.
Okay. Pasensya na dun sa mobile, medyo maliit yung ano eh. Teka, I'll try to expand. Parang, ayun, yun. Medyo lumaki pa ng konti. Yan, maximize natin yung screen. Ayan. Okay. So, 43. Who is, perhaps we could, sige, ano tayo, mag-round robin tayo. 43, Joseph, can you read the question and then just give your answer?
Number 43. who, who of the following authors would most help teacher Lito to understand the underlying effects of poverty on academic achievements? Letter A, Maslow. Letter B, Dewey. Letter C, Piaget. Letter D. Sa akin, sir, Dewey.
Dewey. Ano ba si Dewey? Ang naalala ko kay Dewey, yung ano eh. Though psychologist to, no? Si Dewey, ang naalala ko kay Dewey, yung catalog classification. Tama ba? Yung kay Dewey. Though Dewey is a psychologist also. Pero when Dewey pop up in my mind, it's more on the yung classical catalog, di ba? Kasi ngayon iba na yung cataloging sa library. Tama ba? May iba ng cataloging. Dati ang pag 001 ayan, Dewey constructivism. Oh, yun, yes. Pero yan ang naiisip ko, no. Pero for this hindi. It's not Dewey. It's more
Maslow.
on
Letter A ba, sir?
ito,
Maslow?
How will you relate poverty with academic achievement because of the need? So yung Maslow's law of need, it will affect. Siyempre pag yung basic physiological need hindi na address, it will affect your academic achievement. Alright, so it's more on Maslow's law of needs. Alright, next, Hazel, can you answer 44?
Opo, sir.
Ma'am Dila, can you mute for a while? Ayan, thank you.
Sorry, sir.
It's okay. Yeah. Hazel, can you answer 44?
Number 44. In a well-known experiment, psychologists frustrate young children by placing a wire fence between the children and a pile of toys. When finally allowed to play with the toys, the children smash and destroy them. Which reaction was demonstrated?
Okay. Say, what's your answer? So may add one out dyan eh. Sometimes you don't know the meaning, but if you will analyze the add one out, you will know the answer. In most cases, guys, the board exam, you don't know the answer. Sa totoo lang, may mga item dyan na hindi natutunan sa loob ng paaralan, have not taught even inside the classroom. But it's there as an item. And as takers of the exam, we need to identify which is an odd item. And which is also appropriate to the question.
Letter B, sir.
What's your answer, Lisa?
Letter B, yung displaced aggression.
Displaced aggression. So something that is a displaced aggression because you placing a wire fence between the children and pile of toys. So when finally allowed to play the toys, the children smash and destroy them. So it's a displaced aggression. So it's not rational. Hindi rin siya dormant kasi dormant ka eh. And it's not sustained because hindi ganun yung reaction niya previously, no? So it's more of a displaced aggression. Okay, correct? Next, Ma'am Nila, your number 5.
In a social studies class, teacher P presents a morally ambiguous situation and asks students what they would do. On whose theory is teacher P's technique based? Letter C, sir, Kohlberg, theory of moral development.
Okay, so 45. Yes, it's Kohlberg, correct. So moral development kasi Colbert eh. Yung keyword dito guys, moral. The word moral. So moral development si Colbert. So that's correct. 45. Okay, thank you ma'am. Ira, can you answer? Do you have a larger screen, Ira? You'll be able to see 46.
Yes po.
Okay, please answer 46.
Which educational issue can be clarified by understanding Maslow's needs theory?
Actually, it's a rephrasing of the previous question. More on rephrasing. Rephrase niya lang. Sometimes guys, ganun ang mga tanong. Paulit-ulit pero nire-rephrase lang sa board exam. Naka-experience ako dyan, 3 item, paulit-ulit siya, rini-rephrase lang. Yung tanong naging answer, minsan naman yung answer magiging question. Alright? Ira, what's your answer?
C po.
Because normally it's Maslow's needs theory, no? So of course education school, hindi naman A, delinquency, that's too generic for Maslow's needs to apply. Effects of different classroom structures. Or between C and D, Ira, what do you think is more related to Maslow's needs theory?
Di po pala, D.
Okay, D, poverty. No, poverty on academic. Effect of poverty. Dalawa kasing epekto niyan eh. Yung poverty limits the educative process and sometimes it motivates for excellence. No, poverty becomes dalawa siya, dalawang extreme. Yung actually nakikita na sa effect ng poverty. May poverty na talagang binabaon ka sa you're deprived. Actually, deprivation of the basic constitutional rights of a child. No, before it's just basic ed, but now during the time of Duterte, tertiary level becoming free for state colleges and universities. So that becomes a right for every Filipino now to have the complete education from pre-elementary and basic education up to the tertiary level. So hindi na usapin yung yun lang ang ano niyan. Of course, the underlying, of course, aside from the tuition fees and allowances, marami pang ibang bagay relevant to poverty, no? So but before, this is more prevalent. But now I think ayan, so maraming mas opportunities because of the government policy as far as tertiary level pre-tertiary education. So I think Ma'am May has okay, nagpop up yung chat ni Ma'am May. Negative ang epekto. No, parang bira rin kasi ako makakita ng ano eh. Kasi merong sa time ko naman yung mga childhood friends ko, lahat kami we are already professionals. Although we are living on the same with the economic status that are not rich, we're not even middle class. So but because of that condition, we make use of this as a motivation rather than the one that will dictate us to deprive of the education. So, yan, effect. It could be. But most of the, tama si Ma'am May, no? The effect of poverty on academic achievement. So, prevalent pa rin siya, no? Isa pang issue dyan, halimbawa, dahil hindi naman talaga yung libreng edukasyon sometimes. My observation, because of poverty, they're forced to work as an early age because of poverty. Anak, makakain mo ba yung pag-aaral mo? O ikaw, mga lakal ka na lang ngayon. No, something like that. No, these are the reality even in some of our families. No, instead, anak, nakakain ba yan? Can you eat your test paper? Or you just go to the farm, Ayan, magsaka ka, tulungan mo yung kapatid mo. Parang ganun. It's not because of the freeness of education sometimes, but the situation brought about by poverty. No? So sometimes it's not really the system, but the situation. Sometimes ganun yung kasi dati guys yung ang issue walang pang matrikula, walang pambili ng project, yung mga ganon, no? Etc. Ano na nga yung matrikula, libreng matrikula na until college education. May allowance pa. Some of the state universities are even giving stipend or allowances. So hindi na issue, I think yun. Yun na lang yung surrounding, no? Yung surrounding issues. Okay? So, sige, effect. So, letter D is the correct answer. Okay, let's move on. Sorry for my being talkative, no? I'm just trying to reflect on this item. Sometimes it have meaning, no? It have more meaning, no? If we will discuss some issues. This. Okay, can you answer 47? D, are you using a larger screen? Okay. Mga nagkakape si D, D, nagkakape ka ba? Paano naman? Ako wala akong kape, oh. Wala. Nakalimutan kong magdala ng tasas. Nasa baba kasi yung Okay, sige. Maybe D is taking a cup of coffee. Gillian, can you answer 47?
You are convinced that whenever a student performs a desired behavior, provide reinforcement, and so the student learns to perform the behavior on her own. On its your conviction base. Behaviorism.
Okay, so the desired behavior, no? So desired behavior, so that is and then what will we do? Stimulus, the reinforcement, no? So it's more behaviorism. Okay, 47 is behaviorism, correct? Sige, let's move on. Okay. Okay, next, for one. Ma'am Hazel's turn for number 48. But, okay, good. Lumiliit siya. Because this picture file, I extracted the photo from our PDF file. Let me... Okay, Ma'am Hazel, can you please answer 48?
Sige, sir. Okay. Sandali.
For a while. Okay, so,
William Glaser. Okay. Okay po. Okay. Number 48. William Glaser's control theory states that behavior is inspired by what satisfies a person's want at any given time. What then must a teacher do to motivate students to learn? So is it A, make schoolwork relevant to students' basic human needs? B, avoid giving assignments? C, making teaching learning interactive? D, organize a curriculum in a spiral manner? I think it's letter A, sir.
okay, letter
A.
Yes.
Okay.
So relevant because based on the theory, by satisfies person's want at any given time. So if you will make a schoolwork relevant to the student's basic needs, I think that would satisfy him, the person's want at any given time. So avoid giving assignment. I think that's an X. Making teaching learning interactive. That is true, but not connected to the problem. So sometimes, guys, be careful with those truths. make sure it has connection to the problem. Totoo siya, pero hindi para sa tanong na yan. Okay, it's true but it's not connected to the question. Sometimes when we confronted with answers that are true to you, but make sure it is something to do with the question. Kasi most of the items, guys, are actually true, but depending on the context. Okay, so C is true, but it's not 48. Question 48. And then letter D, organize a curriculum. Now, letter D is more generic rather than it's more on generalization rather than induction. No? So the point here, you already have a concept for 48. The concept na siya eh. So dapat ang hinihingi niya specifics, from general to specific. And letter D is another generalization, a spiral curriculum. So letter D is correct, but it's not the right item. Because the flow of thought for this item is general to specific. The theory is given, so what will be the response? A specific example for the theory. Now, whereas letter D is another theory, which is also true, but not directly connected to the theory presented by item 48. Okay, guys, so perhaps another technique in answering this item is to look for the flow of thought of the question, whether a more general statement requiring a specific example or a specific example that will require generalization as your answer. No? Normally ganun yun. Hindi yung general, sagot mo rin general. Or specific, sagot mo rin specific. But of course, that depends on the question. But normally, the flow of thought is that if you have presented a general statement, a theory, or a law, it demands a specific example. And letter A is a specific example of the theory provided by the item 48. Or vice versa. It could be a specific example. Now you're asked what theory is applied. Okay guys, do I make sense? This is not only true for this item, but we will encounter other items similar to this. Okay guys, do I make sense? And nagkakapi kayo ha?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Jerem, please answer 49.
Which psychological theory states that the mind insists on finding patterns in things that contribute to the development of insight? I think sir, itong Gestalt psychology.
Okay, correct. So that's constructivism, no? Gestalt psychology. Kasi ang keyword mo diyan patterns. Finding patterns. Okay? So our mind are actually looking for patterns. So, yan, it had been explained by, I think, Gillian, you presented this. Am I right?
Sir.
In Gestalt psychology. Okay, correct, Jerem? Let's move on. Serpent, please answer 50.
When small children call all animals dogs, what process is illustrated based on Piaget cognitive development theory? Di po ako sure sir, literacy po.
Okay, sige. Okay guys, bibigyan ko kayo ng isa pang technique. Halimbawa, zero background tayo doon. Aminin natin, we will encounter question that we have zero background, zero. Pag ganyan ng technique, of course, add one out, hindi mo ma-add one out. O kaya hindi siya this is more an example of specific to general. No? Am I right? The flow of thought is specific to general. Because you have given a specific example, find the theory or find the, what process or part of the theory. Okay, so this is more of an example of general, specific to general. However, the answers are all general. Ayan ang problema. So how will you apply? Of course, you will look at the face value of the word. That's the perhaps at least the last resort that you will apply through this item is the face value mismo. Because the small children, why when the small children call all animals dog? Because perhaps he's actually assimilating all that's the keyword, no? He's actually considering all animals as dog because siguro he's familiar with dogs and his pet at home is a dog. So therefore, he conclude that sabi dyan, that all animals dogs. Where inakakita siya ng pusa, aso pa rin sa kanya yon. Alright? So sige, let's look at the face value of the word. Conservation, nothing is conserved. No, it's not an issue of conservation. Kumbaga, yung idea ng dog hindi na conserve, no? There's no conservation that had been done as far as other animals concerned. Yung accommodation, yan, siguro yung isang idea rin ito because we are encountered Piaget's development theory. You will review that, yung Piaget's development cognitive development theory. Reversion, no? Accommodation, kung accommodation, hindi siya more on generality, no? No, kasi generalize ng children yung lahat ng animals as dogs. Okay, so it's more of assimilation. Letter B, assimilation. Assimilation siya. Yun yung ano natin guys. Kung di natin alam si Piaget, yun talaga, we will resort to surface value of the word. Kung anong kinalaman niya. Ganun yung ano natin. Hindi lang tayo guys manguhula, ha? Okay, itong sasabihin ko sa inyo, bawal manghula. Yung panguhula, at least meron tayong clues. In-apply mo na lahat ng technique. Add one out, no? From general to specific, specific to general, and then the face value of this item, no? Look at the word usage. So, bawal manghula as if na walang cognitive, parang ano lang, bahala na si Batman. Let Batman do the job, no? I don't think it will be good to take a national standardized test by that methodology. So if you don't know the actual concept, okay? So I hope, guys. Of course, how will you resolve this item are not really familiar to you. Read as many books, as many reviewers, as many resources as possible. That's the only resort or the resolution that you may have to avoid items that are not really known to you. Though I would say now that there are really items that are not known to you. Okay? I'm not talking only of professional courses, but most especially general education, guys. There are a lot of general education items that are not known to you. You'll be surprised. But of course, utilizing some techniques that I shared to you, and you have your own personal techniques also, you will know the answer. Okay? So of course, applying the principle of if you don't know the answer, know the items that are not the answer, at least. And then if you resolve to 2 items, then pray to the Lord that He will give you grace to choose among these 2 equal level items. All right. Okay, so that's assimilation. Who's the next? Missionary Sheng, 51.
Po, sir. Brunner's theory on intellectual development moves from inactive to economic and symbolic stage. Applying Brunner's house should you teach?
Okay.
Uh,
You could have a tentative answer for this.
Sir D po, sir.
Letter?
Letter D po, do direct instruction po.
All right. Okay, choose between A and B. That's the only possible answer.
Ah, A and B, and B. Okay.
Hmm.
Wait, wait po. A and B. B po, sir.
Okay. So, why I say it's, how about others? Can you chat your answer for 51?
Sir.
It's okay, no problem, Sheng, no problem.
A. I think A. I
Okay.
think.
So why it's only A between battle between A and B? B interactive in approach. It's too generic. Do direct instructions too generic. Again, the flow of thought here is generic to specific, more specific. All right? So yun yung kasi is actually applying the law, no? Brunner's theory on intellectual development moves so that the definition of the theory. Now how will you do this? All right, so C and D are more generic, so it's not an answer. So it's begin with concrete and begin with abstract. Now, I will ask you, if you're teaching a grade 2 pupil, how will you approach a lesson to him? Okay? I know you, opposite siya. So kaya mamimili kang dyan, May. A ang sagot ni May, A kay Ma'am Nila, no? So tatanungin yung sarili nyo, kung magtuturo ka ng calculus sa isang grade 2 student, which is inappropriate, no? But it's just for illustration purposes. Okay? So you will start with concrete ideas. And then you will develop from concrete to abstract. Saka ka lang mag-abstract, no? Pero you will start with more concrete ideas from inactive to iconic symbolic. So symbolic is final stage. Inactive, it's more on the concrete. Okay? So, okay, Sheng. So the answer is letter A. So begin with the concrete. Ganun din naman. Diba, pag nagpi-preach tayo, di ba? When you're preaching a text, you start with the idea, a concrete idea that's somewhat related to the text, and expand it. Then you will expand. You will have more abstract ideas afterwards. But you will start with the concrete. What is read by the congregation, the text that they could see. No? So, same principle din applied even in preaching and even Sunday school. Now, you give the student an abstract idea agad. Hindi pa. Kailangan makita nila yung abstract idea based on the concreteness of the idea or the perhaps practicality or that could touch their senses. No? That's making it more concrete. Now, rather than starting with abstract idea, and I think that's for mature learners. No? It's more on but it's not usually happen in a classroom environment. All right? So, yun yung makikita natin. So, you start with concrete to abstract. All right? All right. So, where is my screen? Okay. Ma'am May, please answer number 52. Okay, from the word of Bandura, social learning. So, social learning. Ma'am May, are you there? Please answer 52. Okay, mukhang nagkakape din si Ma'am May. Okay, I'll wait for a while for May. Kanina nag-comment pa siya, no? Ay, ano ka ba? Okay. May problema ba yung mic mo, May? Please answer. Oo, nakamute ka, May. Ma'am May, nakamute ka. Paki-unmute mo na lang. Ayan, parang ano. Or if not, nakamute yung icon mo eh. If not, you could chat your answer. Okay, the answer po, Miss May answer is modeling also with Ken, correct? So modeling. So the keyword there is the actual theory, social learning. So what's more appropriate with social learning? Of course, not lecturing. Definitely not. It's not questioning. No, it's not even inductive reasoning. So there are no social relevance on that, on those three items, guys. Now, though we don't really know exactly, no, some of you may memorize the theory of Bandura, but for us that have only a surface level idea of Bandura, you will look at the word usage, guys. Mahalagang word usage. Social, how will you connect the social aspect of learning, no, on what activity? So lecturing itself, it's not automatic. Questioning and inductive are not. So modeling is more social in terms of activity. So that's the correct answer. Thank you, Mami. Okay, Meg, can you answer 53? Please answer 53.
Three po. Wait lang po.
Sige, go ahead.
Letter B po.
Letter
B po.
Letter B. Okay. Anong flow of thought nyo, Meg? Generic to specific o specific to generic? Yung flow of thought nung tanong.
Ang flow po.
What's the flow of thought of the question? General to specific or specific to general?
What is an application of
Because he's presenting a theory, general, to specific. What is the application? So your answer should be specific. If your answer is letter B, it's also general. Nagets mo ba, Meg? That's how we approach items. Yes. Okay, so B is not an answer. So since also it's a general idea. So it could be A, C, and D. Okay, you choose another item. Take note, this is an operant conditioning. It must be something to do with stimulus response. So something to do with stimulus response under the camp of behaviorism.
Letter A. A po.
Okay. Again, letter A is a generic. Use of ICT in classroom, very general yan. Any theories could be applied to that. You lead with C and D na lang. Di ba? Can you see the approach, guys? So hindi lang basta-basta ang board. Kailangan meron ka talagang diskarte dyan. Okay, last chance, Meg. C or D. Again, the flow of thought is generic to specific.
C po.
Yan, letter C. Because you know why? With computer-based instruction, anong gagawin mo? May voice yan eh. Ano ba? May voice recognition. Okay, follow this arrow, click this arrow. Anong gagawin mo? I-click mo talaga yung arrow. That's computer-based instruction. Okay? It's more on the behaviorist concept of operant conditioning theory. Now, wherein the computer is instructing you to do, that's your stimulus, then you respond in terms of actually following what is the computer is telling you or the computer program. Okay, so that's operant conditioning theory, and primarily that application is computer-based self-instruction. All right? Okay, I hope I'm making sense of this, no? Okay, let's go back. Sino pang hindi Common have not answered yet, personally? Yung mga naiwan natin kasi nagkape kanina. D, are you ready? Or who else? Before I call Sir Joseph.
Number
Sige, number
54.
54. Brother Joseph. Number 54.
Number 54, a person who has had painful experiences at the dentist's office may become careful at the mere sight of the dentist's office. Which theory can explain this? Letter A, generalization. Letter B, classical conditioning. Letter C, operant conditioning. Letter D, attribution theory. Letter B, sir, classical conditioning.
Okay, it's classical conditioning, correct. So classical conditioning siya, no? So it's a direct stimulus response, no? Stimulus mo yung painful experience, no? The painful experience, and then anong response? Fearful. May become fearful at a mere sight of a dentist's office. So that's classical conditioning. All right? Next, ACL 55. ACL, number 55, please. Okay, paano nagkakape din si ACL, Okay, sige.
Hello po, ako po ba? Ano po naman? Sorry po.
Okay, please answer 55.
Sabi nila
Lagi ako makinig.
meron na bukol.
Number 55
Si
po.
Mami. Oo po.
No, you can eat.
Ay, namin mo lang.
If a child is bitten by a large black dog, and the child may fear not only that black dog, but also other large dogs. Which conditioning process is illustrated?
What's your answer? ACL, what's your answer?
Ano po? Letter D po, generalization.
Okay, letter D? Letter D or B? Generalization.
Yes, yes po.
Okay, that's correct. Because the child generalize all black large dog. So kahit large, kahit hindi black, na-generalize niya. No, so generalization is the right answer. Okay? Thank you. Okay, let's move on to the next page. Ma'am Nila, this is for you. 56.
Rene exhibits fear response to freely roaming dogs, but does show fear when a dog is on a leash or confined to a pen. Which condition process is illustrated? Letter D, sir, yung answer ko.
So what happened for roaming dogs? He exhibit fear for roaming dogs, yung mga asong gala. Okay? But not so clear when the dog is on leash or confined in a pen. So pag nakakulong o nakatali, so okay lang, no? Hindi siya what do you think, ma'am, is the
For extinction, sir, B, extinction.
Ang extinction, ma'am, may isang behavior na nawala. Pareho siya nag-exhibit ng behavior. For yung asong gala, natakot siya. Sa asong nakatali, hindi siya natatakot. So, hindi siya extinction, madam, kasi wala namang nawalang behavior.
Discrimination, sir. Napili ko na lahat.
What do you think, ma'am, is the best? Of course, generalization cannot be, you cannot generalize because there are two behaviors here. So, B and C are not answered. So, it's between A and B, madam.
Discrimination, sir.
Yeah, discrimination. They be able to discriminate the free dogs or those freely roaming dogs with those confined in the pen. So he could discriminate. That's why it inhibits behaviors, different distinct or behaviors. No, two different stimulus or stimuli has different or appropriate response. So asong gala, takot siya. Asong nakatali, hindi siya natatakot. Okay? So discrimination 'yon. Okay, next, Ira, 57.
Bernadette enjoyed the roller coaster when they went to Enchanted Kingdom. Just at the sight of the roller coaster, she gets excited, which theory explains Bernadette's behavior. Ano po sa A or C, pero
A or
A
C
na
lang?
A po.
Okay, operant conditioning, yes. So meron kasing yung roller coaster, no? Yun yung stimulus niya na at the site only, even at the site. No, so it's not been operated by the experience of his enjoyment with the roller coaster. So para siyang pag classical kasi dapat one-to-one correspondence siya, no? So yung mismong pag sumakay uli siya ng roller coaster, saka siya matutuwa. One-to-one corresponds. Ito, ang sabi diyan, just at the site of the roller coaster. So meaning may nagti-trigger na sa kanya agad. So that's an operant condition. So yun yung kaibahan niya sa classical. So sa classical, yung actual experience that would have behavior. Ito, tini-trigger nung experience na yon yung ano ba ang tawag doon, yung at least the resemblance per se, no, the resemblance, no, just the sight, not at the ride itself, but a sight of the roller coaster would get her excited. Okay, so that's an operant conditioning. Okay, so yan, try to review that, guys, the difference between the Pavlovian or the classical conditioning versus operant. So this is more of an operant conditioning. Okay, thank you, Ira. Okay, D, are you ready? Mukhang busy si D, ah. Otep, busy ba si D?
Hello, sir, rinig ba ako?
Ayan, ngayon lang kita narinig.
Yan.
Please answer 58.
58 po, sir?
Yes.
Cannot see. Teka lang. Very small. Yan. 58. In a treatment for alcoholism, Ramil was made to drink an alcoholic beverage and then made to ingest a drug that produces nausea. Eventually, he was nauseated at the sight and smell of alcohol and stopped drinking alcohol. Which theory explains this? A. Operant conditioning. B. Social learning theory. C. Associative learning. And D. Attribution theory.
Okay, what's your answer?
A, sir.
Okay. So hindi yung actual, no? Hindi yung because of treatment for alcoholism, we made to drink an alcohol beverage and then made to ingest a drug that produces nausea. So it's more on treating alcoholism, specific to, no? Eventually, he nauseated and at the sight and smell alcohol and stopped drinking. So ibig sabihin, relate yung pag-inom o yung drinking alcohol with nausea o yung pagkahilo. Okay? So to avoid pagkahilo, D, kung ayaw mo mahilo, anong gagawin mo? If you don't want to experience nausea, what will you do?
Stop drinking alcohol.
Stop drinking alcohol, correct. So he relates, there is a correspondence now between alcohol and nausea. So correspondence. So another term for correspondence, there's corresponding, or you could associate. No, associate alcohol with nausea. So more on
Associative learning.
Okay? It's not just a simple conditioning. Hindi siya operant conditioning. No, kasi yung direct experience nung hindi yun eh. It's more on associativity. Yun yung focus dito, hindi yung cause and effect. Okay? Social learning is an X because it is more of tawag dyan, yung social learning is more in between behaviorism and cognitivism, no? And attribution theory is not also. So it's more on motivation theory, no? So it's nothing to do with the item. So letter C is the appropriate answer, associative learning. Okay? Okay, thank you, D. Gillian, please answer 59.
A mother gives her son his favorite snack every time the boy cleans up his room. Afterwards, the boy cleans his room every day in anticipation of the snack. Which theory is the statement? Operant conditioning po.
Okay, operant. Kasi may concept ng reward, no? Diyan pumapasok yung concept of reward and punishment sa operant conditioning. Okay? Kasi kaya naglinis na siya kasi may snack, no? Parang yung aso na kapag binel mo, no, automatic siya maglalaway kasi relate mo yung pagbebel doon sa meat na i-offer mo sa kanya. Parang ganun din yung nangyari doon sa experiment na yun. Okay? So yung operant conditioning. Okay? So, thank you, Gillian. Ma'am Hazel, please answer number 60.
Okay, number 60. Based on Bandura's social learning theory, whom do children often imitate? Those who blank, have substantial influence over their lives, belong to their peer group, belong to the other races, are successful, and seem admired. Let me see. My guess, sir, is letter A. A?
Okay, your guess is correct, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
Oh, ma'am, Hazel already applying the techniques. So because papasin nyo, social learning. So social learning, something to do with those who influence. So item number 1 belongs to their peer group, not necessary. Because there are, of course, hindi necessary, very, generic siya. Depende doon sa epekto ng peer. And other races, of course, 2 and 3 are not answer. So 1 and 4 are successful and seem admired. So he will see those people who are persons around him that are have a successful story. So that they could admire. So, yun yung imitate. Honor roll. No? Paano kaya yung technique niya? Anong technique siya para siya naging honor roll? No? Di ba mga bata, di ba? Nung bata pa kayo guys, nagtataka kayo, paano kaya naging first honor to? Okay, magaya nga yung what is the technique that he's using to becoming a first honor. Unfortunately, during my time, when Miss Boster was still my advisor, it's not the issue of who is intelligent. It's not an issue. The issue during those time is more close to Miss Boster. Oo, belong na siya eh. So wala nang masyadong imitation doon kasi tama yung observation mo, ma'am. Ang bilis ng pop-up nung hindi ko nakita yung chat. Is it yung Ma'am May? Yes, Ma'am May has this comment.
Yes po.
Ayan. Belong, yes, they belong. So most of the time homogeneous na yun, no? Belong to their peer group or belong to other races. More on homogeneous. Homogeneous na siya. Hindi mo na-imitate yun kasi homogeneous eh. So more on hetero, yung mga may influence, those has substantial influence, and those who have success stories, no, successful and seem admired. So these are more hetero, something to imitate. Kasi kung homo na, paano pa i-imitate? Magkapareho na nga kayo. Yun yung sense. Tama yung point mo ay tama yun. Tama yung analysis ni ma'am. Okay, thank you Ma'am Hazel for that item. Let's move on. Fortunately, which screen should I move? Okay, Ma'am May, it's your turn. Number 61.
Okay po, number 61, if you have to develop in the students a correct sense of right and wrong, with which should you be concerned according to Freud? Right and wrong, A, superego.
Yan, correct. Superego is the moral aspect, no? Id is more on pleasure aspect, and the ego is yourself, your conscious self. So parang ganun siya. Guys, pag pro dyan ang tanong, if the question is something to do with Freud, there's no in-between answers. There's no in-between answer. So letter D is not an answer, no? Ego is not an answer if you forgot, no? If that's yourself, kaya nga ego, that's yourself. So it's between super ego and id. No, that's the moral aspect. The moral consciousness of man is the super ego. Okay? So, yun lang yun. It's never an in-between. There's no in-between questions or answers, guys. No? So, maraming ganyan. Alam niyo bakit? Because I was wrong. I was struck by the question when I took the board examination. I realized there's no in-between answers. No in-between answers. Perhaps some items may say between super ego and ego, between ego and id, no, something like that. X na agad yung guys. X marks the spot yun. It's not an answer. Alright? Yan. Kasi I don't want you to commit the same mistake as mine when I took the board exam 9 years ago. No? So, you don't need to do that. No, I commit the mistake because no one told me. That's wrong. now you have an opportunity of somebody telling you it's not the answer. Now, don't repeat my mistake 9 years ago, okay? So, ayan guys, sabi ko sa inyo, walang in between pag pro dyan ang tanong. There's no in between, okay? Thank you May for that. Missionary Sheng, yes Meg, you have a question? Meg, you have something to ask? Yes, ano muna, arrange based do sa order ng visualization ko guys. Sorry, iba-iba tayong visualization. But next to May on my visualization is Missionary Sheng. I think you will be next. You will be answering item 63, Meg. But thank you for your for asking. So, Missionary Sheng, because on my visualization, it's Missionary Sheng next to May. Please answer Missionary Sheng, number 62. Then 63, Meg, it's your item. Unless, please answer Missionary Sheng, number 62.
62 po, sir.
Yes.
If a student is encouraged to develop himself to fullest and must satisfy this hierarchy of needs and hierarchy of needs and to need to satisfy according to Maslow is belongingness, self-need,
So
psychology,
the answer is
psychology,
specific. So you
actually,
should recall the triangle of the pyramid of Maslow's law of needs, missionary Sheng. So what's on the top?
um, uh, I think, sir, I think, self-actualization po.
Okay, that's correct. That's a correct answer. So
Thank you,
for
sir.
this for this question, you need to bear in mind the pyramid, the triangle of Maslow, the pyramid.
Tama po, sir. Yes po.
And the bottom, of course, is the physiological need, no? Belongingness, safety needs, I think is somewhere in between. But self-actualization is on the top. So it's the highest need to satisfy based on Maslow's law of need. Of course, for Christians, it's not self-actualization. That's the highest. The highest is it's God Himself. He is the ultimate goal in life. His glory and His praise. So Christian education would be beyond the need of a man. No, but it's beyond that. It's the glory of God. According to Westminster Confession of Faith, Catechism, what is the chief end of man? Meaning the highest goal, the highest need. Now, what's the chief end of man? The chief end of man is to glorify Him and enjoy Him forever. Okay, so that's a Christian perspective. Okay, but Maslow is more on humanistic perspective. Now, that's why he created this hierarchy of need. Okay, but for Maslow, it's the self-actualization. Okay, thank you, Sheng. Now, Meg, let me try to flash number 63. Okay, and that's the end of the next slide na tayo. Okay, Meg, please answer 63.
Which are the basic assumptions of behaviorists? One, the mind of a newborn child is a blank slate. Two, all behaviors are determined by environmental events. Three, the child has a certain degree of freedom not to allow himself to be shaped by his environment.
Okay.
B.
Okay, the answer is B. All right, that's correct. IRA 2, yes, letter B. So in a way, so this is more of a stimulus response, no, for the behaviorist camp. There is no process in between. Remember, the process in between the stimulus and response is explained by the cognitive camp. So in the process, the mental process, cognitive process, the constructivism itself is cognitive perspective, all of which are in the process. But behaviorists will explain learning as far as stimulus and response, external, something that is visible and not in the internal process of the learner. So the mind of a newborn is a blank slate. Yes, that's true for behaviorism. All behaviors are determined by the environmental events. Yes, because of the stimulus. No? That's item 3. So item 2, check for item 1, check for item 2. Number 3, child has a certain degree of freedom not to allow himself to be shaped by the environment. Cannot be. It must be stimulus alone that will determine his desired response. So nothing in the process. No, ganyan ang behaviorist eh. No? Wala yung process. It's more on input-output. Samantalang yung cognitive camp, he explained also the processes. Of course, becoming now the complete paradigm, input, process, and then output. Okay? So I think that's a more complete visualization of learning. It's not actually just the input that will have automatic output, but the input when processed now becomes a learning experience to the student, and then you will have a visible output for that. That's the time that you will have a visible output. That's more of the cognitive camp. So number 3 item is more on that. Now, therefore, the answer is just item 1 and 2. So it's letter B, correct. Okay, next, Jerem, can you answer, let me flash 64. Jerem, can you answer 64?
Which does Noam Chomsky assert about language learning for children? Young children learn and apply grammatical rules and vocabulary as they are opposed to them. Begin them teaching of grammatical rules to children as early as possible. Do not require initial formal language teaching for children.
Okay. This is a good question. We have not touched this. Chomsky. So it's more under language learning to eh. Tama no, English majors? So you have this Chomsky, for English language majors, you know this. Language learning. So what's your answer, Jerem? Okay, ang clue ko dyan, add one out. Yung add one out, may isang kakaiba dyan, or sometimes opposite ng isang item. Pero pag tinignan mo, add item siya. Yun yung hindi sagot, siyempre.
2
Add one out.
2.
We'll try to analyze the item. Okay, Ira has letter D. May has letter D. What else? Good chat, no? Jerem, what's your tentative answer? Ma'am Nila also has letter D. Ma'am Hazel is letter D. Jerem, ano nang sagot mo? Ayan.
Parang di na rin yata, sir.
Para napapadi ka na rin. Okay, let's analyze item. Actually, it's correct. It's correct. So, according to this learning theory, it's more on learn the grammar, rules, and vocabulary as they are exposed to them. So, exposure. So, exposure to this, now rather than having a formal language learning, as if you will specify grammar rules to them. So, now, item 3, item 2, rather, begin formal teaching of grammar rules to children as early as possible. No? So, yung grammar rules. So, yan yung add item, yung number 2. Number 3, do not require initial formal. No? So, it's an opposite. So, magiging clue mo na yan, may opposite. Ibig sabihin, may kapartner yung isa. At ang kapartner ng item 3 ay yung item 1. So, therefore, add item yung number 2. So, the answer is 1 and 3. So, letter D. Okay? Okay, so, sige. Okay, Brother Joseph, please answer 65.
Number 65. What does its hierarchical theory propose for effective instruction? Letter A, sequence instruction. Letter B, reward, good behavior. Letter C, be concerned with the socio-emotional climate in the classroom. And letter D, it's beginning with the concrete. Letter A, sir, sequence instruction.
Okay, correct. So because of the word hierarchy, so meaning there's a sequence from simple to complex, from there must be a prerequisite. So the concept of prerequisite was introduced this hierarchy theory, no? Prerequisite. So there are prerequisite topics or courses. So it must be in sequence. Okay? So the related hierarchical, the word hierarchy is somewhat related to sequence because there are prerequisites necessary. So it must be sequential. You cannot take calculus without passing algebra and trigonometry and analytic geometry. So you cannot do some calculus task or advanced mathematics without dealing with basic math. So that's part of the hierarchy theory. And there must be a sequence. All right? Okay, thank you, Joseph. Okay, let's move on. Hazel, please read the situation there. Wait, where's my screen? Hazel, please read the situation and then answer number 66.
Yung situation po. Mrs. De La Cruz developed a lesson on the concept of fraction, as follows. First, she represented as whole pizza, then asked a pupil to cut it into two. She called one part of the pizza one half po, and the two parts to two. Then she wrote one half and two on the board. She proceeded to ask another pupil to divide the half parts of the cake into two again. Then wrote 1/4 and 2/4 and 3/4. Then she went back to the fractions she wrote on the board. She asked her pupils for the meaning of 1/2, 1/3, 1/4, and 2/4. Yung 66 po.
Yes.
Which part of the lessons is the symbolic stage?
Okay, symbolic. Okay, Isel, what's your answer?
Yes po, yung ano po, dividing the pizza further into 4 letter.
Symbolic, meaning from the word itself. Symbol. Hazel.
Writing the fractions into one half.
Yan lang ang symbol dyan, Hazel. Ayan, symbolic siya. Isa-isay natin items. Dividing pizza further into two. It's an actual thing. It's concrete, very concrete. On the eyes of the pupils, no? He dividing the pizza. Siguro kakainin nila yan pagkatapos, di ba? Alam nga namang pinakita lang, di natakam yung estudyante. Kakain din sila siguro. Pero this is an actual thing, more concrete. So it's not symbolic. Using model of fraction, so perhaps he had, meron siyang mga item o meron siyang illustration, perhaps cartolina or some other sort, illustration boards, no? Or flashcards, something like that. No? So it's still not symbolic because there is concreteness on that. No? And then letter D, dividing the pizza further. Actual pa rin yun. Halos pareho lang siya ng A and B. No? So therefore, the answer is letter C. So that becomes symbolic when he write the equivalent fractions on the board. And he's trying now from concrete to abstract. No? Nagiging symbolic. No? Abstract na yun. Nagsimula siya sa presentation ng fraction in terms of practical usage. No, pizza, ano ba yung hinahati? Pakwan, ano ba bang mga hinahating bagay na madaling hatiin? Normally pizza no? Pizza ang madaling hatiin yun. Cake, yan. Slice of cake, something like that. What else? Siguro kung galante yung teacher, lahat ng pagkain, dadalhin niya, hatiin niyo sa 1/3 yung lahat ng pagkain o 1/2. Yung mga bata naman tuwan-tuwa kasi, o sige, yung hinati niyo, kainin niyo na rin. Diba? Ibig sabihin, marirelate nilang yung pag ang mga math teachers pala, galante. No? Okay, that siyempre hindi applicable sa akin yun. Dahil nasa virtual tayo. Okay, what I'm saying is that the only symbolic item here is letter C. Okay? Okay. So knowing that, let's proceed. Ma'am Nila, answer 67.
67. Does the development of the lesson and action conform to the bottom-up arrangement of the learning experiences in Edgar Day's cone of experience? Yes, sir. Letter A.
Okay, yes, it's correct. It's more concrete to abstract or symbolic, no? So yan yung Dale's cone of experience. So you could recall that, recall the illustration of the Dale's cone of experience, right? So, but for here, the learning experience becoming more concrete to abstract, no, more on that towards symbolic experience or learning. So more on concrete, practical, becomes more of abstract, symbolic. Ganun yung approaches, no? So yes, that's the correct answer. Okay, that's the end of the slide. Okay, Ira, you're next, 68. That's the end of the, this also still apply to the, oops, sobrang laki naman. Please answer 68, Ira.
68. Would it be easier to understand and retain the concept of fraction if Mr. La Cruz began the lesson on fractions with the meaning of 1/2, 1/3, 1/4, etc.?
Actually, nasabi ko na pala yung sagot kanina. It's okay. Actually, I'm unconscious, no? Hindi ko naman kabisado yung mga test item. So, obvious answer, Ira?
A po.
Letter A, right? So, it must be, lala sa math, no? As math majors, English pala si Ira, English language. For as mathematics major, lalo sa mga LM, foundational age group, so it needs to be concrete to abstract or symbolic. Now, sa tertiary level, baliktad na yan. No, kahit magsimula kami sa abstract, walang problema kasi may foundationals na eh. No, may foundational na siya. So, theory, and you could appreciate more of the theory if you present it first and then afterwards, the practicality of it. You more appreciate the theory. That's for tertiary level. I'm not saying you apply this to LM or even high school. No? So, but for those basic education, yes, it's better learning that teacher proceeds from concrete to abstract. All right. Okay, next. Okay, D again. Please read the situation and then answer number 69.
69 po. On which assumption about the learning is Mr. Marquez Akop asking the class to share their insight-based? A. Learners are producers of knowledge, not only passive recipients of information. Learners are meant to interact with one another. Learners are like empty receptacles waiting to be filled up, and learners have multiple intelligences and varied learning styles.
Okay, there are items here that are not the answer. Letter D is not an answer. We're not dealing with multiple intelligences, correct? Right, D? We're not dealing with multiple intelligence. Okay, What else?
To,
Letter B is not also an answer because there's no interaction. Learners are meant to interact with another. We're not, the question does not imply. So letter, okay, you are to choose between A to C only, A or C. D. A or C only.
I think it's more likely A, sir, kasi learners are producers of knowledge, not only facilitators of
Yes,
information.
that's correct answer. Because what that really happens, you derive insights from the poem. Okay, of stopping by the way. I don't know the exact poem, no, but since you're deriving your insights, you're creating knowledge. You're becoming producers of information or knowledge, not just a passive recipient of information. He's not just asked to read the poem, but he asked them to share any insight derived from the poem. So meaning, you're becoming the creator already of the information or knowledge. So that is letter A. Okay? Okay, next, let me, Gillian, my mouse is running up the clock. Dikul. Hindi ko makita yung mouse ko na yun. Honestly, I screens. So, my mouse ran out the clock. Right? 70, please, Gillian.
The class was asked to share the insights about the poem. The ability to come up with an insight stems from the ability to
Okay, the flow of thought is from specific to general or general to specific.
specific to generalization.
More generalization because you're actually starting with a specific activity, then you generalize. Unfortunately, all items are general.
Pero
But
I
of
think
course, there's an obvious answer here. Letter A, comprehend the subject that's being studied. It's not the issue here because you're deriving insight. So it's not it's about comprehension. Letter A is not an answer. Analyze the parts of a whole. You're not asked to do that. Okay, so letter B is not an answer. So it's between C and D. William, C and D.
Letter C, sir.
Okay, but May is letter D. How about others? Para meron tayong call a friend. Okay, Ma'am Nila is also letter D. Ma'am Hazel is letter D. Okay, Missionary Sheng is D. Yan. Gillian, your answer? Ma'am Ira is letter D. Actually, letter C is not an answer, Gillian, because you're not asked to evaluate. You're asked to derive an insight from a poem. So meaning, it's more on to relate and organize things and ideas. It's not an evaluation. It's not an evaluation activity. Hindi naman sinabing ng teacher na comment. Ayan, more personal. Correct, Ma'am May. Thank you for that. So it's more on personal rather than evaluative. Okay, Gillian? Did you get it? Ayan, nagtampo na si Hazel. Ay, si Ma'am Gillian. Ay, si Gillian.
Ano po, sir?
So it's letter D. The answer is letter D. Okay? Kasi yung evaluation, hindi evaluative yung yung activity. You're deriving insight. So yun nga, tama yung sinabi ni Ma'am, it's more your personal insight. You're trying to relate and organize things. Now, how it perceives you. Anong dating sa'yo nung poem na yun. No, so it's more on that. Okay, thank you, Gillian. Ma'am Hazel, you're next. Let me, my mouse again, Hazel, number 71, please.
Okay, sir. 71. Visual imaginary helps people store information in their memory more effectively, which is one teaching implication of this principle. A. You will not object when your students daydream in class. B. Instruct students to take notes while you lecture. C. Encourage your students to imagine the characters and situations when reading a story. D. Tell them to read more illustrated comics. It's very obvious here. It's letter C. Visual. So, yeah, imagine.
Correct,
C.
madam, correct. So it's more on the connections of memory with the imagination. Yung visual imagery. You're creating a visual imagery upon reading a story because you're trying to imagine the characters and situation. Diba? That's a normal thing to do when you're reading a story, reading paragraph or a story or an epic. Perhaps you're imagining. Okay? In fact, as math majors, we have visual imagery also whenever we encounter, assuming the question is audibly communicated, orally communicated, there's a pop-up of visualization of the mathematical problems in our mind. No? So that's how we derive the answer quickly. So visual. And also that also related to literature, reading a poem or paragraph or a historical event or narrative, historical narrative, where there are vivid descriptions, and this vivid description triggers your visual imagery in your mind. So I think letter C is the best answer here. Thank you, Ma'am Hazel. Okay, 72, Ma'am May, please answer.
Okay po. Number 72, it is sound to encourage students to define terms in their own words because defining terms in their own words helps them memorize the definition faster. B, students remember information better when they mentally process it in some way. This is opportunity to brush up with their English. D, they ought to connect the terms that they learn with other terms. Ang answer ko po is letter D. Kasi po sa letter A may word na memorize. Sa letter B po, yun pa rin po, information. Tapos sa letter C, more on focus sa English. I think the best answer would be letter D. Yeah, yun po. Letter D po ang para sa akin.
D or boy? Dog?
Dog, sir.
Okay, letter C is not an answer. Correct. Letter A is not an answer. I'm giving you chance, B or D.
Letter B, sir. B as in boy na.
Boy, okay. Sige, let's look at the weight of these two items. No? Students remember information better when they mentally process it in some way that they are actually more acquainted with this word. Kaya nga yung term na own words, no? You're trying to encourage a student to define concepts on their own words so that the processing of information will be better in some way because they define it by themselves. They process the idea by themselves. Yung D, they ought to connect the terms that they learn with some other terms. Actually, tama rin yung D. Tama rin yung D. Pero at the end of the day, only one answer. May. Only one answer. Actually, tama rin yung D. I agree with you. Tama rin yung D. Pero, yan, of course, sometimes, yung parang ang magiging background nito, instead of the students memorizing the definition, no, per se, word for word, verbatimly, no, you ask them to define them in their own words. Parang ganun yung hindi siya yung terms with other terms. Parang tama rin yung di, pero kasi ang focus nan the terms that they learn with other terms. So more relating with the terms with other terms. Here, they're actually defining the terms on their own words. So parang may medyo tama siya, pero hindi ganun, hindi bullseye yung yung item 72, no? So ganun. Pero tama rin yung dito kung tutuusin eh. Tama rin siya. Yun nga lang, yung mas bullseye yung letter D. No, kasi if they define it, they will have process. Now, the fact that you're defining terms, you have mental process on that, no, and you will remember it better because you define it by yourself. You have the process. Unlike rote memorization, pag rote memorization, talagang kung ano lang yung definition ng book, even without understanding it.
Mas may analyzation po yung letter B, sir?
There's letter B has something more something to do with the more connected with the question. But D is also an answer. I would agree, D is also an answer. Pero at the end of the day, you have only one answer. Okay guys, ganun yan. Sa board exam, parang pwedeng yung 4 ang sagot mo. Pero at the end of the day, you need to choose the best answer. Okay? So you should not choose the second best. Yes, Ira, you have something to say?
Yun po yung inano niya po yung sa answer na B or D. Sa D po kasi they ought to connect the terms with that they learn with other terms. Ang sinasabi po dito, they define the terms lang po. Ito po kasi when you connect the terms to other terms nga po, ang mangyayari po hindi na po siya defining the term, applying the term na po siya, hindi na po siya defining, kaya mas appropriate po yung B.
Okay, thank you, Ira. Thank you for I'm glad that I'm hearing from an English language student. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ira. Yeah, tama yun. Alright, so sige. Let's move on. So tama yung insight. Pero kung ako magti-take niyan, mamimili ako sa B and D. And I think B is still the best answer. Okay, tama rin yun, yung terms by terms. So hindi na siya defining, no? O nga, no? Alright. So I'm learning too on this exercise. Alright, so let's move on. Okay, is that the last of the page? Okay, Mamay, no? You're the last one who have answered.
Yes po.
Okay, so Med's term for item 73. Let me flash the item 73 here. Alright. Let me, because this is a word file. Okay, this is 7, this answer. Okay, Meg, are you there?
Sorry po.
Please answer 73.
Teacher Z always checks on entry knowledge and skills before she proceeds to her new lesson. On which principle is teacher Z's practice grounded? A. Effective teaching process from the concrete in the abstract. B. Attention is essential for learning. C. Learning increases when the lesson is relevant. D. New learning builds on previous learning.
Okay. All are true, but only one is relevant to the question.
Wait lang.
Okay, let me help you. A is not an answer. We're not talking here of abstract to concrete or concrete to abstract. So it's true, but it's not relevant to the question. So A is not an answer. Yes, attention is essential for learning. It's true, but it's not relevant to the question. So B is not an answer. So between C and D. Okay, Meg, between C and D. What's your answer?
Letter C po.
Letter Ira is letter D. Ma'am Hazel is letter D also. Ma'am Nila is letter D. Yan, you could pop up your question. Ma'am May, letter D. Meg, your answer?
Letter D na.
Letter D na. Actually, yung keyword dyan, ito, new lesson. So before, checks on entry knowledge and skills before she proceeds to her new lesson. Meaning prerequisite, he's looking for prerequisites, no, for the new lesson, no. Therefore, new learning builds on previous learning. Sometimes to do with the hierarchical learning theory, no, the hierarchical learning theory. So there are prerequisites. No, before teaching calculus, you need to check whether they learn in algebra, trigo, in geometry. No, the pre-calculus subject. No, same as true with this. No, no, we are building new learning. New learning builds on previous learning. Okay, so that's why teacher Z check their entry knowledge and skills. No, so previous learning yon before or previous lesson before she proceeds with her new lesson. Okay, so thank you, Meg. Next, Jerem, please answer 74.
Which is a classroom application of this principle? Students learn more effectively when they elaborate on new information. As your students do, write the principles, sometimes commit the principles, analyze the principle from different points, or print the principle given, analyze the principle.
Okay, there's an obvious answer there.
A and D wala.
Okay, A is not an answer, definitely.
Ano sir, letter C.
Okay, correct. Letter C. So analyze the principle from different points of view. So more on elaborate, no? More effectively when they elaborate on new information from different points of view. Kasi add one out to guys. This is an example of add one out. Whereas sometimes there are missing link on the answer to the problem itself. No, hindi siya direct hit eh. Tutusin hindi direct hit yun. Pero pag inanalyze mo by add one out, siya lang nag-i-stand na isang sagot. Right principle 5 times. So, hindi yan eh. Commit principle to memory. Hindi rin, I don't think so. Print principle bigger letters. Lalo naman, very obvious. It's not the item. Letter C is the add one out. So, and also somehow it hits partially the answer. Sometimes ganun guys ha. Merong mga item na hindi direct hit or bullseye yung answer pero partially hit. The others, iba yung sinasabi. So mas pipiliin mo na yung partially hit questions by an item rather than items not hitting the bullseye at all. Or not hitting even partially. Okay? Kasi may mga item na ganun. Okay? So, but we need to be aware of that. No? So the idea of add one out. So there's an add one out here. Okay? Okay, thank you, Jerem. Next item is Missionary Sheng, 75.
Share pa, sir. Go to CR.
Si Missionary Sheng?
Opo, CR pa.
Sige. Saluhin mo muna, Brother Joseph. 75.
Okay, number 75. What is an application of focus key idea of scaffolding?
All right.
Letter A, give the learner a task that challenge their ability. Letter B, from the start, leave the learner to herself because she has the power for self-learning. Letter D, don't spoil the learner by doing what she ought to do. And letter D, give the learner the necessary assistance until she can be on her own. Letter D, sir.
Okay, letter D is correct. The keyword there is scaffolding, something to do with assistance, necessary assistance. So letter D. So if you know Vygotski's theory of idea of scaffolding, so it's more of assisting until such time the learner becoming more independent. All right. So there must be a teacher that would assist, that would assist or coach the learner until such time he will be working independently. Okay, so that's the concept of scaffolding. Okay, next, Missionary Sheng, na-CR pa rin, Brad?
Yes po, sir. Yes po.
Sige, you answer na lang 76, Missionary Sheng. 76.
Po, 70. Which is classroom application of theology on apparent conditioning. Behavior increase created in the classroom. So I think number C, per se, help students see.
76.
Yes, po, sir.
So operant conditioning, meaning there is this more on behaviorism. No? Behaviorism meaning there is a stimulus response. Ay, nasabi ko na yung sagot. Automatic yun, guys, ha? Kapag conditioning, behavior, whether operant or classical, nandun, papasok agad yung konsepto ng stimulus response. Automatic yun, guys. And that's an automatic mindset whenever we have an item of behaviorism. So what's the answer? Nasabi ko tuloy yung sagot. Missionary sir.
Which is classroom applications.
Actually, partially, I mentioned the answer.
Wait po, sir. Let me think again po. Class application.
So it's between stimulus and response.
Which is classroom application period. So I think C lang po, sir. That's what I think po.
Okay. So you related to stimulus response. Which is more viable among these choices? There must be the teacher will create the stimulus and the student will respond on that stimulus. That's the idea of operant conditioning.
So A lang po, sir. A lang po, sir. A lang po.
Ayo, tama.
Sorry,
Actually, partially nasabi ko na yung sagot.
Sir, thank you po.
Letter A. So stimulus response yan. Reinforce good behavior. Reinforce mo, magkakaroon ka rin as teacher, you reinforce good behavior to increase likelihood that the learner will repeat the response.
Thank you po,
Okay,
sir.
so meron kang reinforcement, perhaps reward system or some other things that would motivate the learner to increase likelihood of repeating the response because of the good behavior that we could see among the students, no, good behavior. Okay, so reinforce that in terms of reward, no, or other things, so that likely, most probably, he will repeat that good behavior. All right, so that is operant conditioning. Okay, thank you, Ms. Chen. Okay, let's go back to Hazel. Please answer 77. Hazel, 77, please. Yan, nagkakape ka, hey, Hazel. Okay, so sige, I think Hazel is okay. I asked Ma'am Nila to answer 77.
Okay, sir. Which is an underlying assumption of the social cognitive theory? People blank. Letter B, sir, learn by observing others.
Okay, correct. Social context. But of course, letter A, social context by nature, but not in the sense of learning. So there must be assumption social cognitive learning theory to, no? So by nature, we're social creatures, but not yet on the learning process, no? So A is not an answer. So you need only to look at B, C, and D as an appropriate answer on social context. So letter C is not an answer. Ang may social context lang yan, association and observing others. So but more active yung letter B, passive yung letter D. It's more passive kasi learning by association lang eh. Wala talaga masyadong social context doon, unlike when you're observing others. So there's more an active type of learning. So letter B is the answer. Correct. Hazel, are you there? Before I ask Ira. Hazel, please answer 78.
78. Based on Bandura's theory, which conditions must be present for a student to learn from a letter A?
Okay, again, medyo malabo yung audio. Your answer please,
Letter A.
Letter A. Okay, all of the items are part of Bandura's theory. Okay, starting from attention, then retention, motor reproduction, and then eventually motivation. So all of these are part of Bandura's theory. So letter A is the answer. All right. Okay, so let me okay, 79, it's Ira's turn. Okay, I will just enlarge the screen. Oh. Ira, this is your, please answer 79.
Teacher R, a science teacher, makes sure all eyes are on her as she demonstrates the proper behavior for lighting a Bunsen burner. Whose theory supports the teacher R's practice?
Okay, something to do with attention. Yun na yun.
Di po.
Okay, Bandura's theory. Okay, correct. Sa attention, kailangan kasi ng attention. No? So, ayan. Siyempre, critical yan. You're experimenting with Bunsen burner. So, there must be proper, no? Make sure all eyes are on her as she demonstrate the proper behavior or the proper methodology for lighting a Bunsen burner. Okay, which of course, for children, it's not hindi independent yun. You don't allows the student to just make use of the Bunsen burner. No? So, okay. D, please answer 80. D, are you there? D, if not, I'll call D, yes, please answer 80. Number 80, please.
Teacher D, and D, but Teacher D claims if I have to give reinforcement, it has to be given immediately after response. Which theory support Teacher D?
Okay. So familiar words, reinforcement, response. So what would be the theory behind that?
Reinforcement to get immediate response.
Okay. Question: which is this behaviorism or cognitism? D.
I think cognitism.
Behaviorism. So B and C are not answers, and even D. I don't know the humanist theory at all. No? So it could be just a decoy. It's just a decoy item. So the answer is letter A, operant conditioning theory. So that's the only behaviorism theory there. The behaviorism theory is letter A. B and C is cognitive, obviously. Humanist, not so sure. Who among you knows humanist theory here, guys? As far as learning is concerned. So parang decoy siya, no? Parang ano lang siya. Okay, so thank you, D. Gillian, you still have time for 81? I know you have classes by this time. Please answer 81.
One learns math by building on math lessons previously learned. This is an application of the theory. Sir, ano po yung S?
Stimulus response.
Constructivist po.
Constructivist. Okay. Ito yung mga item na sinasabi ko, guys, na hindi direct hit pero siya yung pinakamalapit. Okay? Constructivist. Kasi ang math, building, one learns math by building on math lessons is more on cognitive to. Cognitive. Yun lang ang pinaka-related doon. Hindi naman physiological. Hindi naman stimulus response. Hindi siya humanist. I'm not familiar with the humanist theory. No? Maybe you could share, no, if you're, humanist theory. But the nearest item here, but not a direct hit to the problem, is constructivist. Alright? This is a constructivist theory. May mga ganun, guys, ha? Huwag kayong magtataka bakit may hindi direct hit yung sagot, pero siya yung pinakamalapit. And that is the best choice that you should have. Alright? So for this case, constructivist. Okay? Thank you, Gillian. Ayan. So next, 82. Let me roll again my okay, 80 for Ma'am Hazel. Ma'am Hazel, please read the situation and the question.
Yes, sir. Okay. Okay. Teacher F teaches a multi-grade class in a very remote barrio. Most of the children hike 1.5 hours to school every day. By the time they reach the school, they are exhausted, hungry, and sleepy. As a result, most children were not learning. She presented her problem in a meeting with parents attended only by a few and gave suggestions on what school and community can do. In the meeting, it was agreed that parents took turns to cook kamote, bananas, cassava, or what have they have for the children's snack. The health worker was asked to do Operation Timbang for the children. Those underweight were beneficiaries of supplementary feeding program funded by the barangay. So number 82 question. Which theory backs up Teacher F's suggestion on feeding program and parents giving snacks? Very obvious, sir. It's letter C, Maslow's hierarchy needs.
Okay, thank you, madam. That's the correct answer. So Maslow. So there's yung physiological needs, no?
Apo.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Okay, 83, Ma'am May, please answer.
Number 83, recent researchers reveal limitations of behaviorist view, but they continue to influence education. Which of these demonstrates the influence of behaviorist theories over effective learning? Best option ko po, sir, is B as in boys. Pero di ko po sure. Ang hirap po ng tanong.
Cognitive agad yun. May. Cognitive yun. Okay. Problem solving is cognitive. High order thinking skills yan eh. HOTS. High order. So B is not an option. Journal writing is also cognitive. So it's between A and B.
A, sir?
It's letter D. Program instruction, ibig sabihin, pag program, meron na siyang stimulus doon, may response na yung bata. Naka-program kasi. Parang sa computer program. For instance, no? Okay, press A to if you like the apple o yung naman bata, if you press A, makikita niyo yung apple. So parang ganon. It's more of a program instruction. So there is already a stimulus in the instruction and there's an anticipation of a response among the student. That's program instruction. Ibig sabihin, pinograma mo na eh. Nakita mo na yung stimulus response doon sa instruction. Program kasi siya. But, did I make sense, May? So, program instruction. Yung blended learning kasi, combination. Kasi yung blended learning is more a combination of physical and online and modular. So those are the modes of learning kaya sa blended. So hindi ko ma-determine doon kung cognitive o behaviorist for later but it's more of a combination for letter A. Pero yung program, it's more behaviorist siya kasi nga meron ka nang na-establish na stimulus na instruction and then alam mo na rin yung response ng bata kasi nga program instruction. Para yung mga computer program, halimbawa yung mga educational programs, press A for apple, press B for banana, something like that. Yung mga, lalo na yung sa Netflix, may mga ganyan eh, interactive videos. I don't know if you're aware of that. There are interactive videos on Netflix.
Meron, sir.
So, pwede yon. So, ibig sabihin, tansyado na nung gumawa nun, yung response ng bata. Ibig sabihin, alam niya na yung magiging response. Kaya niya binibigyan ng ganitong options. Alright? So that's program.
Okay po, sir.
Okay, thank you, May.
Thank you po.
Sige. Pero mahirap yung tanong. Ako, if I will answer this 9 years ago, I may be wrong. Baka...
Hindi ko po binigay yung question as behavioral versus cognitive. Hindi ko po naisip yun. Pero it makes sense po. Tama po yung lahat po kasi nung ABC is cognitive nga, naiiba yung letter D. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you. So, yun yung analysis natin. Okay, next. Okay, I think this is the end of the slide. Teka lang. So, Meg, you're 84. For those who have classes, no? If you have class, your excuse, I think Gillian and nawala na si Aisel. And some other, if you have classes, your excuse. But if you don't have class, you may continue until 10 o'clock. We'll be here.
Hanggang 10 po kami.
Yes. So some of us, because some of your classmates as 9:30 class. Yeah, that's why.
Kaya mag-stay po ako.
Stay na. Okay. Sige. So I think Aisel has a class, no? Okay, Meg, this is your item, 84.
Po. Learning has taken place when a strong bond between stimulus and response is formed. This is based on the theory of letter A.
Okay, this is a question of behaviorism, no? So eliminate na yung non-behaviorist dapat dyan. Constructivism is not an answer for 84. So X na si categorization is more cognitive process. So letter B is not an answer. So I'm just giving you option for C and D. Meg.
Wait. Letter D po.
Letter D, connectionism, correct. Because the learner had able to connect the stimulus with the appropriate response. Yun yung connectionism. So nagkakaroon siya ng bond. No, ibig sabihin para nagiging automatic. Kapag ito yung sinabi ng teacher, ito yung response ko. Kapag yung amo ko may kinalembang na bell at may kaugnayan na karne, kakahula ko, maglalaway ako. Parang ganoon naman sa aso. So meron na siyang connection. Na kapag gumiti si mami, ibig sabihin kasunod yan, may gatas akong ipapadede sa akin. Something like that. So there's already a band of stimulus response. So that's what we call connectionism. Okay? Thank you, Ben. Missionary Sheng for 85, item 85.
85 po, sir. According to Oshu Bell, one of the ways to strengthen the students' cognitive structure is by using an instruction to code according to cross-referencing, spiral approach, advanced organization, narrative, D po, sir, D po.
Okay, so what's the flow of thought? General to specific or specific to general?
General to specific, sir.
Okay, so we are looking for a specific answer. So therefore, B is not an answer because spiral approach is more general. D is not an answer. Narrative is very generic. So B and D are not answers. So just choose from A to C.
A to C, opo.
A or C lang.
C po, sir.
Yes, C. So advanced organizer is actually attributed to Ausubel's theory. Okay? So yung cognitive structure. So advanced organizer is an output of that theory of Ausubel. Okay, advanced organizer. Actually, yung module nyo has advanced organizers every module. Did you notice that, guys? Ito, yung every module, there's an advanced organizer here. Ito, yung graph.
Yes, sir.
That's an advanced organizer. It's actually following Ausubel's theory. for that sense. No, it's a good instructional tool, no, for cognitive development. All right. So, okay, Jerem, please answer 86.
86. Thorndike's law of effects states that the connection between stimulus and response is strengthened when the consequence is Thorndike's law. Pleasurable, sir.
Okay. Pleasurable. It's between pleasurable and positive, which has more strengthened the response. Which is more specific, pleasurable or positive? Negative is not an answer. Of course, it will not strengthen the response. In fact, it will inactivate the response, no? In fact, mawawala 'yon pag negative. Yung repeated, actually tatlo yung pwedeng maging sagot, repeated, pleasurable, and positive. But among the three, which is more specific? Jerem.
Wala ka sa idea, sir, sa positive kasi
Positive
ang
response. Okay, kasi yung repeated naman, pwedeng hindi positive response. Umuulit lang siya, but not necessarily repeated. Same as pleasure. It does not connote that it's pleasurable, it's positive. No, it's not, we don't look that way. No, it could be pleasurable in some sense, but it's not positive at all. No, but those who will be, the response will be strengthened only for positive consequences. Specific positive consequences. Okay, that's letter D. Thank you, Jerem. Okay, let's go back to Joseph. 87, please. Item 87.
Number 87. Watson applied classical conditioning in his experiment, and the results showed that behavior is learned through stimulus-response association. Specifically, the development of emotional responses to certain stimuli, which help us in letter A, interpreting reflexes as emotion. Letter B, understanding urge, phobias, and love. Letter C, connecting observable behavior to stimulus. Letter D, understanding the role of overt behavior.
This is a difficult question, pero pwede mo more on the flow of thought is general to specific, no?
Yung answer ko dito, sir, letter C. Connecting observable behavior to stimulus.
Actually, letter C is part of the theory. Now, there must be a strong bond between behavior and stimulus. It's integrated to that stimulus-response association. Okay, so C is the theory itself. But we're looking here for a specific application of the theory. So, actually ako, between by stimulus response association. So there must be some yung behavior mo on the association, stimulus response association, no? So hindi siya letter A kasi reflexes as emotion. So walang association. No? So between B and D, Joseph. And then one item would stand out to be more specific.
C and D. Letter D, sir.
Letter B, yes, understanding fears, phobias, and love. So I think that's more a specific application of a stimulus response association. Letter B. Though some items here may have an indirect hit of the question. No, but I think B is the bullseye, more specific. Baga, yan yung direction ng question, flow of thought niya. Okay, Ma'am Nila, please answer 88.
Number 88. Skinner is known for his theory based upon the notion that learning is a result of change in overt behavior, meaning an individual responds to events that occur in the environment. This theory came to be known as the operant conditioning.
Okay, correct. Operant conditioning. Kasi meron kang stimulus, meron kang ginawa doon sa environment, in response to event that occur in the environment. So, yan yung ng classical pagkakaiba, no? Sa classical conditioning. So, ayan. At a result, learning is a result of the change in the overt behavior, meaning individual response to occur. Okay, environment. No? Key factor is environment for operant conditioning. Okay, thank you, Ma'am Mila. Ira, please answer 89.
The leading opponent of social learning theory is Bandura. He believes that
Bandura is more of a social learning theory. So you connect that to the items.
sa di po.
Okay, letter
D.
Letter D, correct.
People learn
People
from one
learn
another.
from one another by modeling, correct. That's the only social context here. No? Okay, so letter A is both the environment person. It's more on halfway between behaviorism and cognitivism. No? Letter B, well, this is more on individual still needed. So this is more on information processing, information. So it's still cognitive. Cognitive siya pero hindi social. No? Reinforcement influenced by cognitive process. Cognitive but not social learning. So the only related item there is letter D. Correct. Okay. So we are almost done, no? So maka 100 items lang, okay na tayo. Okay na tayo dito. Okay, D, please answer 90. Okay. We cannot hear your audio, D.
Can you hear me now?
Ayan.
Hello?
Yes.
I think my headset is broken. Number 90. Ms. Reyes observed that one of her students excels in activities requiring strength, speed, flexibility, balance, and hand-eye coordination. According to Howard Gardner, such natural intelligence can be identified as battery kinesthetic, verbal, personal, verbal, linguistic. So then excess activities of strength,
Okay, D, what's the answer?
C, so interpersonal.
Okay. Focus on the activity.
Yeah.
The activity is requiring strength,
Strength.
speed,
Ay, sir.
flexibility.
Bodily kinesthetic.
Yan. It's more related to bodily and
Yes, sir.
kinesthetic. Okay? So letter A is the correct answer. Gillian, you still have time for 91.
Learning styles refer to the preferred way an individual process information. Classify a student who learns best through verbal lectures, discussions, talking things through, and listening to what others have to say. He or she is an auditory learner po.
Correct. Auditory learner because of the word verbal. Verbal lecture is no, it's not that visual. Though some may learn visually on lectures, discussion, but it's more on verbal, meaning words, communication. Communicated words through verbal lectures, discussion, talking things. No, so more on communication. So the answer is auditory learning, correct? Ma'am Hazel, 92, please.
Okay, sir. 92. Identify the ninth intelligence, which is described as the ability to seek connections involving one's place in the family, school, community, and role in the world. They ask, why are we here? This intelligence is termed naturalist, interpersonal, existentialism. Right. Why are we here? So maybe existentialist, sir?
Yes, ma'am,
I
correct.
don't know. Okay. Why are we
Sometimes we
here?
call it the supernaturalist. Supernaturalist,
Supernatural.
meaning is being
Okay.
able to connect. So this would refer to the theologians, more on
Mm.
the religious, Christian, spiritual, more on faith-based. Those are the
Okay.
existential, asking why are we
Yeah.
here. Those are very
Mm.
questions that we ask ourselves, why we are here, why we are existing. So there must be somebody that is above us, that is supernatural, uh, uh, that is the reason behind our existence. So existentialist is the right answer. In fact, that's the ninth. No, it was added as one of the smartness of a child, of a learner. No, before it's just 8, but now it's the ninth, intelligence or smartness. Sometimes we call it smart. No, parang mas may connection yung salitang smart kaysa intelligent. Sometimes, no. So letter D is the answer, correct? Right? Ma'am May, please answer 93.
Okay. Number 93, Erickson was influenced by Sigmund Freud and came up with a theory which serves as a basis for analyzing personality and development to help facilitate the teacher's understanding of various environmental factors that affect one behavior or those of his or her students as well. This theory came to be known as uh,
So the question is very
Glaser,
specific. Letter D, psychosocial, correct?
psychosocial.
Because Sigmund Freud is psychosexual. May kinuha si Erickson kay Sigmund Freud. No, yung psychosocial theory sa kanya. Samantalang kay Sigmund Freud, psychosexual. Alright? Pero may inadapt siya kay Sigmund Freud. Okay? So yan, influenced by Sigmund Freud. Yan. So psychosexual or Erickson. Okay, thank you, Ma'am May. 94.
Minsan nakakalito umpisa kasi yung ANC contract.
Yung A, pag ganito kasi
Yung A,
usapan,
sir, and C, sir, pang-distract.
distractor. Kasi yung A and C, no, kala mo doon. Pero guys, we're talking here of theory. Theory. Kaya ang babanggain natin dyan, yung pangalan ng theory. Okay? So, wag na tayo mag-focus sa ibang distractor. Katulad ng moral, very general. Emotional development, personality. It may be true, but what is that theory called? That theory came to be known as. So, yung specific name ang tinatanong niya. So, kaya psychosocial. Okay? Though there might be some side hits of the other items, no? Parang panggulo, distractors na yan. Okay? Okay, Meg, please answer 94.
94 po. The theme of the Vygotsky sociocultural theory emphasizes the role of appropriate assistance given by the teacher to accomplish a task, such help enables the child to move from the zone of actual development to a zone of proximal development. Such assistance is termed scaffolding activity collaboration.
Okay, what's your answer?
Wait lang.
So pag Vygotsky, yan agad ang lumalabas sa isipan natin. What do you call that assistance given?
Letter C.
So letter A is odd, so it's not an answer, letter A. C is not an answer because you're giving assistance, no? So it's not an active participation. You're giving assistance. It could be letter B and D. Med. Boy or dog lang?
That B.
Okay, B. Scaffolding is the answer. Kasi in collaboration, it's more equal. Equal kayong level. Pag scaffolding, may mas mataas na matutulong sa'yo. Yun yung kaibahan ng collaboration sa scaffolding. Scaffolding, somebody that is a tutor or a teacher that could help the student giving assistance. So that's scaffolding. Collaboration, equal level yun. When you collaborate with somebody, you have equal level. Meaning you could exchange information or assistance one to another at an equal level because you are in collaboration. But in scaffolding, there must be a higher, somebody that's higher on you, mature, no, in terms of the learning per se, now that would give you an assistance so that eventually you'll be independent on your performances. No? So that's scaffolding. Okay, 94 is scaffolding. Okay, Missionary Sheng, can you please answer 95?
95 from the point of view of Brenner, ecological system theory. How would one explain why being born to a poor family makes a person work harder? The first macro system affect individuals' behavior. Cultural return means a person's behavior. Person's higher need in self-actualization.
So this is more of a bioecological theory of learning. So bioecological. So meaning there are spheres that influences you, no? And marami siyang linatag na spheres diyan sa ecological system na yan. So the one that would directly is within your context.
The poor family makes hard work harder. I think A, sir.
Okay, macro system is a larger system. It may not directly affect your individual behavior. It's something more specific. So macro, though part of ecological system, is not a direct effect. It will have an effect in an indirect sense. No, it's not. It will not direct hit to the individual's behavior because
Sir,
it's a macro system.
I think B and C.
B is not also an answer. C is not bioecological. It's Maslow's.
The answer is D pa. So
So the only answer left is letter D, even if you don't understand it.
individuals to prevent.
Ganyan sa board, guys. That's the reality of board. Even if you don't understand the item, that's the only item that is not an answer or an answer, you need
Yes,
to
Pastor.
make a choice. Why C is not an answer? Because C is mass law. It's not bioecological system. All right? C is not an answer. Though A and B is part of the ecological system, it's not a direct hit because macro system is a larger sphere. So it's not a direct effect to your behavior. It's somebody within your core that influences you. Also, the culture itself. No, the culture itself, it's not a direct hit. No, it's an indirect. Well, it's not an effect, but not necessarily the direct effect. So the only answer left is letter D. Eros or life instinct helps the individual survive. So instinctively, so there are instincts of survival o yung tinatawag natin survival instincts. That's why poor family makes a person work harder. Makes sense, no? Because your life instincts or your survival skills were developed at an early stage of life and be able for you to survive, no? Your life. All right? So letter D is the most logical answer for this. Okay, makes sense, Sheng? So that's how a board exam question works. All right. So okay. So I think last item is Ken. This the last question. So it's almost already 10 o'clock. So the remaining item, guys, it's up to you. No, it's up to you now. It's up to you. So I think I already contributed much of the items. So the remaining items perhaps are just few items until 130. So I think it's manageable, guys, because in tertiary level, there are some levels of uncertainty that you need to anticipate. Much uncertainty, but of course you could do it. Okay, Jerem, this is your last item, 96.
The process of problem solving and learning are highly unique and individual. The principle means letter B, students can modify their own personal styles. D pala D.
All right, so sige, let's analyze items here. Students can adopt alternative problem solvings. Yes, it's true, but it's not relevant to the question. No? Because what is asked here is learning are highly unique individual. Nothing to say with alternative problem, though it's true. Letter A is true, but not related to the question. Letter B, students can modify their own personal styles. Yes, but not necessarily reflecting uniqueness and individuality. Letter B. It's true also, but not a direct hit to the question. No? So that's letter B. Letter C, each student becomes aware of how learning styles can be changed. Awareness is true, but still not a direct, does not hit the idea of uniqueness and individuality. Nagets nyo ba, guys? So we are analyzing here. So we're left with the last item here. Each student has her own distinctive style of learning solving. I think that fits uniqueness and individuality. What do you think, Jeremy? Yung word distinctive, it's something connected with the uniqueness and individuality. That's letter D. Okay, Jerem?
Yes po, yes po.
Okay, letter D is the answer. Okay, this is the last item, guys. Again, I would like to congratulate everyone for finishing this course
Amen.
well.
So thank you.
So it's a matter of time that you will take your midterm and final exam. Don't worry, I will give you 6 to 7 days until May 21 for both graduating and non-graduating. Anyway, upon completion, I may immediately submit the records. No worries about it. So let me remind you that the midterm coverage, as I mentioned last time, is only the modules for midterm, which is module 7 to 18, module 7 to 8, and the respective take-home questions for midterm. So there are take-home questions that you have already answered for midterm period. That's the only coverage of your midterm exam. And for the take-home coverage, only the items appropriated for cognitism and behaviorism and constructivism are the items that are needed, or the items that I'll be getting as part of your test item. Okay, so no more, no less for midterm. But for finals, the finals coverage would be this material. Now randomly I'll be selecting plus the finals module. Now the finals module is you could read it from module 19 to 26. All right. So in a way, module 26 is just a reflection of what happened for modules 1 to 25. Okay, so that would be the coverage. Now from module 19 to 26, the item there, and this material that we have been discussing, I have uploaded this in the prelim period. You could look at this on the prelim folder. The potential problems under, I forgot the week, but you could always look at this and you could practice. Now we are already on 96. From 97 to 130, it's up to you. You could just have your answers. Then I'll be choosing randomly from this reviewer. Then afterwards, when the semester ends, I give you the grade. Then I will be uploading the reviewers that I have promised to you. Now both for general ed and prof ed. So everything will be available at the end of the semester. And of course, when we meet during the graduation, some of you will be graduating. Hopefully, I could meet you in the graduation. I could show you your grades if you want. All right. Now, the Plat 1, let me inform you, I will also apply the Plat 1 rule. Did I mention already the Plat 1 rule? The Plat 1 rule? Not yet?
Hindi po, sir.
Okay, the
No.
Plat 1 rule states, no, I will be deriving the highest periodical grade, no, from prelim, midterms, and finals. If your highest periodical grade is midterm, no, basically whatever your grade there will be your semestral grade. That would be my Plat 1 challenge, no. So if you got Plat 1 in finals, that will be your semestral grade already. That's your Plat 1 challenge. Okay, so no more question asked. No? So I will be rating your prelim, midterm, finals equally, and then comparing them, whichever is the highest grade, then I will make it your semestral grade or your class card grades already. Okay, that's your Plat 1 challenge. Of course, you need to take both exams. You should not miss midterm and final exams. You will not choose from midterm and final. You will take both examinations within the weeks to come, until May 21. All right. So that's it. That's why I delayed the midterm is because of the Plat 1 challenge, so that you will take it in the same time, and eventually I will tabulate it, whichever is the highest. If not Plat 1, will be your semestral grade. Of course, factor in are the components of grade, the major exams, your submissions are factored in. But this time I'll be choosing the highest periodical grade to become your semestral grade. Okay, guys, make sense? Yes, me.
Yes, sir. Sir, ask ko lang, sa Google Classroom po natin, sir, yun pong lahat ng, ang tawag dito? Classwork, ito po lahat ng classwork, ito lang pong mga nakapost dito, yung pong classwork natin, sir, or meron pa pong wala dito sa class?
Wala na. Yan yung reference for midterm. Nandito na yung ano eh. Kung titingin nyo sa classwork, yung midterm natin, kung anong nasa midterm folder na ano dyan, ang coverage yan, yung modules, nandiyan na naman yung modules, no? Modules 7 to 18. I uploaded that already. Just look for that modules. And then yung review material for midterm, that will be the coverage of the midterm exam. All there. And
Including po sir lahat ng reflective summary, no?
of course, the reflective summary would be 25% of your grade. Or I'm not actually talking here
Okay
of
po.
just the major exams. Of course, major exams just 40% of your grade, of your periodical grade. Now, kapag halimbawa naka-flat 1 ka sa major exam, tapos malaki ng influence yun sa grade mo. Perhaps your reflective summary is flat 1, 2, and then other your presentation per se, because I'm reviewing your presentations based on the evaluation of your peers. So all of which we will factor in. Whichever is the highest periodical grade is your semestral grade. So that's my flat 1 challenge. And of course, yung exams is essential, no? Because it's 40%. Okay, May?
Okay po. Thank you, sir. Okay po. Thank you po.
Okay. Ma'am Hazel?
Sir, last na lang. Are you going to provide exam code?
Yes, same thing as prelim. Same thing as prelim.
Okay.
So
Okay.
expect
Thank
an
you.
upload within today or Sunday, not later than Monday. Everything will be
Okay.
uploaded. Okay, so that
And may oras din yan siya, sir? Like
3
2 hours, 3
3 hours
hours
per exam, madam. So upon receiving
Okay.
the exam code, you have only 3 hours to answer it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And then of course, I'll be inviting you for next week will be our final challenge. So by the time hopefully all of you are done already with your exam. We're just finishing up with the Word of God. I'll be challenging you by next week, Saturday. Okay, no exams later than 11:59 of Saturday. The last request of access of code or exam code is 9 o'clock in the evening of Saturday. No later that. Pag ikaw ay nag-request ng 9:01 in the evening for your code, I won't give you the exam, meaning you already failed on the exam, both for midterm finals. So make sure you request for the code and be able to complete it within 3 hours, both for midterm, 3 hours finals, 3 hours also. So I suggest you take the exam on different dates para hindi kayo malito. So as early as Wednesday, perhaps you could take the midterm, or Friday, on Friday your final exam. So that guys, if this time if you fail to take the exam on time, it will reflect as failing on your major exams. 40% will be a failing mark already if you failed to take the exam on or before Saturday. Yung ating request of code is only until 9 p.m. of Saturday, May 21. No later than that. Because I will assume that you will take it for 3 hours. So overshoot na siya ng 11:59 ng gabi. Okay guys, so wala mag-exam ng higit sa alas 9 ng gabi ng Sabado. So yun na yung pinaka-tentative. So if you failed, no question asked, I will mark you as failed on the major exam. Though it does not mean that you failed on my class, but you failed on the exam because of non-attendance on the given week for the exam. Okay, I hope that is clear to all of you guys. Do you have other questions?
Okay po, sir.
Okay, so I suggest you take the exam Wednesday or at a Friday. So that would be an appropriate. And then if you're still lacking your reflective summary, you could still upload until May 21 as well. Okay, so guys, thank you once again. Congratulations. Hope to see you next week for our final challenge. Sige, let's close in a word of prayer.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, let's pray. Father in heaven, we thank you for this day. Continually guide us, bless us, guide the students as they will have their final week next week. Exams, projects, submissions, and other things, Lord. That throughout this, Lord, they will learn, they will grow as your student and as ministers of the Word of God. So we thank you, Lord. bless us and prepare us also for our services tomorrow. This is our prayer in Christ's name. Amen. Okay, thank you so much, guys. See you around.
Bye, sir. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you po, sir.
Bye-bye.
Thank you po, sir. Bye-bye po.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.